This video is sponsored by Athletic Greens.
Over the last couple of years, people have been quitting their jobs in unprecedented numbers. It's been called the Big Quit or the Great Resignation. And I think that really just shows how unsatisfied and unfulfilled people have been feeling about their lives, and particularly their work lives. And that generally there's been a real sense of negativity around employment, actually caused by the pandemic, a reanalysis of what really matters to people: money, time with family, and what's really important. And as someone who's really only just started out in their career, I've definitely felt like there's been a lot of people, certainly more senior people, questioning whether they're doing the right thing, maybe leaving, maybe going on to do something else. And I think what I've really been looking for is ways to, one, actually just feel really positive about my life and particularly my work life, and two, then also techniques to avoid burnout and effectively getting to a point where I really disdain what I'm doing on a daily basis. So in this video, I want to share just 6 simple techniques that I've picked up over the last few weeks of reading lots about burnout particularly, and listening to lots of podcasts around positivity and optimism and workplace psychology. And hopefully you'll be able to actually practically kind of implement some of these things just during the course of this video and then over the next week or so. And hopefully by the end of this video, you will be feeling, as I now am, much more positive and good about life, and particularly your professional life. So the first technique is to avoid groupthink, and this is based on a book called The End of Burnout by Jonathan Milasich that I read fairly recently. And in that book, Jonathan Milasich compares burnout to melancholy or melancholia. So melancholia is a very complex phenomenon that's been around since ancient Greek times, but essentially, particularly during the 18th, 19th, and through into the 20th century, it became a phenomenon particularly common amongst the upper middle class, and particularly amongst writers and thinkers who thought a lot about the big questions in life of what is our purpose. A lot of the stuff I've been making videos about recently and panicking, although, okay, I'm not comparing myself to the great authors and thinkers who were true melancholics, but they were thinking about lots of the same issues that I think we're all thinking about at the moment as to what is my purpose, what am I supposed to be doing, and how can I find happiness and fulfillment. And essentially, it became such a cultural phenomenon to such an extent whereby this groupthink kind of really formed, and everyone was thinking so much about these questions all the time that it became so all-consuming that relatively a significant number of people, well-off people who had a lot going for them, became truly these melancholics and effectively were depressed because of it. They thought so much about what their purpose was, they couldn't find their meaning, they were lost in the world. And I just made a video about what to do if you feel lost. So I'm not saying don't think about those questions, but what I am saying is we need to escape this groupthink where burnout becomes something that we're all obsessed by. All we think about is how much we're working, how hard we're working, how bad bits of our job are because of the difficult pressures that it puts on us. And that could be hours, that could be lack of pay, that could be underappreciation. And actually, instead, I think it's really key, and I'd encourage you to kind of do this now. This is something I've done over the last week a lot. Think about what are the positives of your job. Number one, why did you go into that job? Why you went into this? So for me, as a corporate lawyer, it's because I love the commercials of doing a deal or of understanding businesses and how they work. And I really love how that integrates with the law. There are tons of things I do on a daily basis that I'm learning about, and they're developing my understanding of business and corporates. And that's really what I find interesting. It may be that, for example, I was talking to my friend who is an NHS nurse the other day, and she was telling me all about how there are huge issues with understaffing, people feeling underappreciated, lack of career progression options. There's a general negative sense amongst a lot of the nurses that she works with. And I think while those are all absolutely 100% massive issues and things that need to be addressed within the system, spending your whole time focused on all of those negatives rather than on number one, the root why. Your why is very likely that you get to help people and you love helping people and feeling like you're adding value to the world, and it obviously is a hugely rewarding thing to do. And then thinking of the other positives that come with your job. For me, the opportunities to travel, the pay is fantastic. There are so many things that are very good and reasons for me to think that I'm very lucky to have my job. So just refocusing on those positives. So yeah, I would encourage you right now, remember your root why. Why do you want to do what you're doing, whether it's what you're studying or what you're doing for a job? And then think of at least 5, if not more, positives of things that you get to do or opportunities that have arisen thanks to doing the job that you do.
And one of the tools that helps me stay on top of my health, even when I'm working really hard, is AG1 by Athletic Greens, today's sponsor. AG1 really quickly became an essential part of my morning routine to make sure that I'm filling the gaps we all have in our nutrition. It's a daily supplement that gets rid of the need to have tons of different supplements clogging up your cupboards, with 75 different ingredients including vitamins, minerals, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Drinking AG1 is a habit that helps me do more with less. Simple and quick, it fits perfectly into my busy life, helping me prioritize health and well-being while I push myself to achieve more. It has energy-supporting ingredients to help cut down coffee intake, from a natural form of B12 to biotin and magnesium. Plus, it contains superfoods and other ingredients to help muscle recovery, so it's also great for after a run or workout. I absolutely love the incredible convenience of AG1 with just one scoop or a quick travel pack. You can literally have it in a couple of minutes before you leave for work on a morning, or take it on your travels. You can go to athleticgreens.com/Liam Porritt to get started on your order. Athletic Greens is giving you wonderful people in my audience a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase.
The second technique is to look back further. And this came out of a podcast episode I was listening to the other day, and the guest on the podcast mentioned this Bill Gates quote. And the quote is that many people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 10. And I think that I found this retroactively helpful in thinking we can often focus on our job over even the last week and obsess over the negatives out of the last week, but I actually don't think about the last year or maybe even the last 5 years, and think about actually what we've accomplished in that slightly longer period and how much our life has improved or changed, or the positives that have come out of that longer time frame. So for me, I actually went back and started looking through some of the emails that I was sending when I very first started my job, so a year and a half ago. Not kind of the 10-year period that Bill Gates was talking about, but even that, looking back that far, it was so clear how much I've improved at my job and writing, and that was hugely fulfilling. So I think just feeling positive about actually that change does take time and improvement takes time, but you do grow and you do learn a huge amount over a year or 2 or 3 or 4, and looking back over that sort of longer time frame, I think is a hugely positive and optimistic and helpful thing to do that really makes you think, wow, look how much I've accomplished in that time frame, even if on a daily, weekly, monthly basis even you feel like you're not getting where you want to get to. The third technique is to link small wins to a bigger goal. And this I kind of based on a little bit of reading I did on fundamental studies into burnout that were done by a social psychologist called Christina Maslach. And Maslach, in her foundational study of burnout in the early 1980s, basically says that burnout has kind of 3 elements. The first being exhaustion, the second being what she calls depersonalization, which is effectively cynicism towards other, general frustration with other people that you're working with. And the third is a sense of lack of effectiveness or accomplishment. And it's this kind of third element that I think a lot of people, certainly at a junior stage in their career, really truly suffer with, because exhaustion and tiredness come and go. And yes, you can absolutely feel tired, but actually if you slept for a few days, you'd be okay. The difference between that and burnout is that just sleeping for a few days does not solve burnout. Burnout is a sense of lack of fulfillment and lack of energy to do things over potentially a year-long period because you are that burnt out. So one of the things I've certainly struggled with as a junior in any career is the sense that you get given work, you get given individual tasks to do, but you don't necessarily have a great sense as to how those fit into the bigger picture, or at least you don't spend time thinking about the overall impact that the small things that you're doing do to contribute towards being stepping stones to a bigger goal. And that I think can be deeply unsatisfying. So for me, the big step has been reorganizing the way I have Trello to go back to really what I was doing before when I was a student, and I'd have this big module that I want to get a good grade in. And here are the steps that I'm going to break down over time into these sort of bite-sized chunks that I can complete and tick off and slowly move towards that goal of getting a good grade. I've applied that more to my work life and really batching to-do tasks into these small bite-sized chunks. So I feel like I'm getting small small wins, I'm making progress on a daily basis, but grouping them together, particularly within Trello, on a particular work stream, for example, where I can see that we're working towards a set goal. Like each of these things is a stepping stone for the team along our journey to accomplishing that goal as a team. And that has been huge for me, I think, the sense that even if I'm just proofreading a document, that is a small stepping stone in the journey towards ultimately helping the client get to where they want to get to. And effectively, I'm just trying to do a better job of connecting the little things that I'm doing on a daily basis that I'm ticking off my to-do list to the end destination of where work is going and what the actual purpose of it is, rather than just feeling like it's just another task that I tick off and move on to the next thing. The next technique is quite simple. It's to help others. And I made a video before called Ultimate Legal High, which you should of course watch, and goes into a bit more of the science on why helping others makes people feel good. But effectively, when you help someone, for example, like I've really made an effort to do a bit more mentoring at work and a bit more pro bono, and really trying to have those opportunities in my work to feel like I'm really helping people. But even if it's a small thing at work, like helping someone who doesn't know how to do something, or just being the one who offers them help when they're going through a tough time, it makes you feel so much better about yourself and about your life. So I think if you are feeling like a little bit down at the moment, one of the best things you can do, I've found, when I feel like a bit flat and a bit deflated, is actually just doing something nice, whether that be just sending an email to my grandparent or just calling my mum because she hasn't spoken to me for a while and will appreciate it. Actually, after I do that, not hugely kind thing, but just like something that's nice that I know someone will appreciate, I just feel so much better and so much more positive about life. So yeah, just do something nice and it almost certainly will make you feel more positive. So the fifth and penultimate idea is to deprioritize other people's priorities. So I know for me, one of the things that definitely makes me feel less positive about life is a frustration with not being able to get the things that really matter to me, that I really want to do, done, and not making as much progress as I would have liked to on them. And not having the time or the energy to commit to my YouTube channel or my business with Beth Menos, and also spending time with friends as well as my job. I find that frustrating, and that does make me feel less positive. So I think, yes, okay, I have to accept that I'm not going to be able to perfectly balance things all the time, but I also really think it's hugely important that we question, to what extent am I using my valuable time to please other people and to put other people's priorities ahead of mine, whether that be my family's priorities, my friends' priorities, and actually to really at times, particularly when you're feeling down or you're feeling like you're struggling, to prioritize yourself above everyone else. Clearly, we all have responsibilities, and some people, if you have a family and children and stuff, you can't just deprioritize them. Obviously, it wouldn't work. But I think what I'm saying is, if, for example, you have a meeting set up for next week on something that some person within your organization really wants to do because for them it's a priority, if right now your capacity is stretched and you don't have the time to dedicate to your own things, push back, be a bit more ruthless with yourself and with others' priorities, and allow yourself to say no to that person. So I watched a Matt D'Avella video the other day where he was talking about changing your mindset from thinking about time management, i.e. how you can more effectively block your time or get all of the things that you think you want to do into your calendar, and instead to thinking about energy management. And I think this is a really, really helpful kind of way to think about it, is actually we all have, yes, limited time, but more than that, like limited capacity and energy to just do things. And I think it just sort of factors in all things that take energy. So that could be just meeting up with friends and family. It could be something as simple as like helping your little sibling or your kid with something that takes a huge amount of energy. And it's not something you would necessarily think of within the scope of like time management and blocking out professional or study time, but actually within the scope of like energy management, it does take a huge amount of energy potentially to go and, socialize, particularly if you're not feeling great. So I think just really reflecting on, okay, I have a limited amount of energy, and maybe right now I have an even more limited amount of energy because I don't feel that great. Therefore, what priorities are my priorities and what priorities are other people's priorities? What things am I filling my time and using my energy for that actually, if I think about it, aren't that big a priority for me, don't matter that much to me right now, but I'm just making a priority because someone at work has told me it needs to be done right now, even though I know it probably doesn't really and I could push back potentially, or in my personal and non-work related life, it's something that I know matters to someone else, but actually in the grand scheme of things probably doesn't matter that much right now. And the final technique, which I think is really appropriate for like the very end of this video, is to be okay with not being able to fix your mood. So yes, I think all of these techniques can hopefully help you, and hopefully you have been doing them and now maybe do feel a little bit more positive, or at least the way you're thinking over the next week might be more positive about life. That's great. But fundamentally, mood changes over time. Hormones play into that, how busy you are, how tired you are, what you're experiencing at work over that short-term period. It does all have a huge impact on how we feel, and fundamentally, there may be nothing you can do right now to 100% fix your mood and make yourself feel hugely positive. Hopefully the techniques can help a little, but I think the final technique is really just to be okay with being a bit under the weather, not feeling great, not feeling super positive for a short period. Obviously, if it continues for longer than that, then you might want to think about, what do I need to do? Do I maybe need to think about therapy, or do I need to think about something more serious to improve my mood? But fundamentally, on a lower level, on a weekly, monthly basis, people's moods change all the time. Just accept that that is the reality, is a fact of life. It's okay, and your mood probably will improve in the next couple of weeks or months. Thanks so much for watching. Please do let me know in the comments if you have any other techniques that you use to stay positive, what you thought of this video. Hopefully somewhat useful, and hopefully now you are feeling a bit more positive about life. And I really look forward to speaking to you again very soon. You should jump straight into another one of my valuable videos. Also subscribe, like, all that stuff. But mainly comment, do let me know what you think. I promise I literally always read every single one of the comments, even if I don't have time to reply. And I look forward to speaking to you again very, very soon.